What's up, everybody? Week 7 of the NFL season is here. A lucky 7 for you today, I hope. I'm Mike Janella. I'd like to welcome you to Reward the Fantasy. I'm about to give you the most important 10 minutes of your fantasy football week. Here's how it all goes down. I will ask you 5 questions about football topics, and if you guess the correct answer, you advance. If you answer all 5 questions right, you'll be rewarded with a bonus question. And if you get the bonus question correct, you will automatically split our $250 reward dollar prize today. And to make things even better, you will also be placed into our lottery and have a chance to win 2 tickets to a football game of your choice. That's right, answer 6 questions correctly, and you go into our lottery for a chance to win tickets to see your favorite team. Now, before we get to our game today, the inactives just came out for Week 7 a moment ago, and here are some names you should be aware of. Here's who's in. David Johnson for Arizona against the Giants, plus Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdes-Scantling for the Packers. That's good news there for Aaron Rodgers against the Raiders. Here's who's out. Christian Kirk for the Cardinals. Trent Brown, the offensive lineman for Oakland, is out, so maybe downgrade Josh Jacobs a bit in your book. And Alvin Kamara is sitting out for the Saints in their matchup against the Bears. It's a big name out for New Orleans. All right, one player we know will be out for some time this season is last year's MVP Patrick Mahomes. Suffered a dislocated patella, in layman's terms, his kneecap. Now, to find out when we can realistically expect Mahomes to return, let's head out west, where our medical expert, a renowned orthopedic surgeon and former NFL player, woke up extra early today to bring us the latest. Doc, what's your take on Patrick Mahomes?
It's Dr. Mark Addix on Patrick Mahomes and his knee injury. Dislocated that right kneecap. Now, the good news is because he is a somewhat loose guy, he's got that cannon of an arm, that makes it so there's not as much pressure on the kneecap. Because what determined whether he could return or needed surgery is how much force that kneecap dislocated with, which shears cartilage and caused more injury in the joint. So because he's a loose guy, there was no injury in the joint, and as soon as the swelling's down and he feels strong, he can return to play. The bigger question for me is, will he need surgery after the season? And I think the answer to that depends on whether this dislocates again during the season or it doesn't. So expect him back in about 3 weeks, and I think when he returns, he'll look good.
I think I'm a loose guy too, Doc, but Patrick Mahomes is much more talented than me. So Doc thinks, in general, good news for Patrick Mahomes. We'll still be waiting for a little while, though. Okay, now to today's game, where we will give you everything you need to dominate the day. We'll give you our starts, our sits, today's daily fantasy haymaker, Week 7 sleepers, and break down the biggest matchups of the week. One of those big matchups is the Sunday night game between the Eagles and the Cowboys. First place in the NFC East is on the line tonight, and Coach Doug Peterson really stirred things up by guaranteeing a win for the Eagles. So that's where we start our game today. Question number 1. Which team holds the edge in the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry? Is it the Eagles, the Cowboys, or neither, and the series is tied all time? Now, these teams have met 120 times, including the playoffs. It's one of the best rivalries in the NFL. Before we get to our first answer, though, we turn to our fantasy consultant, Nathan Zagura, to tell us which offense is going to have the better fantasy day. Nate, tell the people who comes out on top between Carson Wentz or Dak.
Thanks, Mike. It's time to see who will be the beasts of the East. The Eagles and the reeling Cowboys, they go head-to-head with 2 guys that look like they certainly are franchise quarterbacks. Carson Wentz on one hand, Dak Prescott on the other. I think both are good fantasy plays this week. Wentz, after all, in his last 4 against the Cowboys, he's averaging 250 yards and has 9 touchdowns passing. But I'm going with Dak Prescott. Have you seen the Eagles secondary? I think everybody out there is still looking for them. Where are they? Where are they? All they're doing is allowing big plays. Quarterbacks are feasting on them. In fact, quarterbacks have produced 24 or more fantasy points in 4 out of 6 against this Eagles team. You saw Kirk Cousins light him up last week. That's why I'm going with Dak. Not only can he give you a little with his legs, he's going to be putting it up against this very, very bad secondary of the Eagles. Dak's averaging 26 fantasy points a game against the Eagles last year. I think he has another big day, and Dak is the one if you want to attack. Mike, back to you.
Attack with Dak. Nate even giving us a nice little motto for your fantasy efforts today. So he goes with the Cowboys, and your answer for question 1, also the Cowboys. Dallas, 68-52 against Philly. 3 meetings against the Eagles. We will hear from our analytics and daily experts shortly, but first, let's move on to question 2, where now we focus on Jacoby Brissett, who's also playing a huge divisional game today as the Colts host the Texans. So, question 2, which player did the Colts trade to get Jacoby Brissett in 2017? Was it Philip Dorsett, Joe Williams, or Reggie Wayne? And before we get to the answer, we turn to our analytics experts at the Colts offense today. Cynthia, enlighten us.
Thanks, Mike. For my 2 starts this week, I'm going to again focus on 2 guys who I've been getting a lot of questions about that fall just outside of that sort of elite range. Like, you're still starting Michael Thomas despite him drawing a bad matchup with the Bears. Now, one guy who you could be questioning, Jacoby Brissett. You need to go ahead and slide that quarterback back into your lineup. The Texans defense has given up the 2nd most points to opposing quarterbacks, 3 or more touchdowns in the past 2 games, and this is a really pivotal game in terms of determining who wins the AFC South. So I think Jacoby Brissett, especially because he gets T.Y. Hilton back and presumably healthier after a bye week, and by the way, that's a little hint there because I have a really monster upside for T.Y. Hilton this week, so don't forget to slide him in there as well. But again, Jacoby Brissett, T.Y. Hilton, totally need to have them in your lineups. Next up, you want to target shares, this is going to sound crazy, of the Giants and Cardinals tilt. Yep, David Johnson, of course. But then if you look on the other side, there's some questions about Saquon Barkley. If he's playing, how many snaps is he playing? What's he doing? What does that do to everyone else's share? I'm here to tell you, Golden Tate is still in a great spot, even if Patrick Peterson returns for the Cardinals. If you look at what the Cardinals have allowed to opposing slot receivers, yeah, slide Golden Tate right in there. He is a starter. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Cynthia. The numbers tell her that fantasy owners should look for big things on both sides of the ball in the Cards-Giants game, and she's very high on the T.Y. Hilton-Brissett combo against the Texans defense. Which brings us to the answer to question 2. Philip Dorsett was traded to the Patriots for Jacoby Brissett after Andrew Luck got hurt and the Colts needed a QB a couple years ago. If you remember, Brissett went 1-1 replacing Tom Brady when he was suspended for Deflategate, which I love bringing up at any chance I get. Hey, we still have Who to Sit, today's Daily Fantasy Haymaker, and our sleepers to go, but before we get to them, let's open up a reward box. Now, everyone who got the first 2 questions right today is now automatically entered to win a $25 Fanatics gift card. Now, reward boxes happen every game. You never know what we're giving away, but right now we have 2 winners coming up, and it looks like our lucky winners are going to each be getting a Fanatics gift card, OSU Baller 88 and MTL Hawk 33. Congratulations to both of you. Enjoy those gift cards. Now, let's turn our attention to another huge game today. Battle of the Birds. The 4-2 Ravens visiting the 5-1 Seahawks. This will surely be a game where the defenses are tested by Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. Lamar leads all QBs with 460 rushing yards this season, but he does not lead in rushing touchdowns. So, Q3, which quarterback leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns this season? Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, or Deshaun Watson? Now, both Wilson and Jackson are top 4 quarterbacks in fantasy this season. And before we give you the answer, let's go back to our man Z to find out who he thinks is going to have the bigger day in Seattle. Nate, who you got?
Thanks, Mike. This week we have a battle of 2 of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL. The real MVP, Russell Wilson, who's off to the best start we've ever seen from a quarterback in the Super Bowl era, and the fantasy MVP, Lamar Jackson. Both of these guys are great starts. Russell Wilson, he's given you multiple touchdowns in 5 of 6 games. He's given you 3 or more total touchdowns in 4 of his last 5. He is sensational. I saw him last week, live and in person. He is calm. He is cool. He is collected. He is the best player in the NFL right now. But does that mean he's the best fantasy play? I say no. Lamar Jackson, are you kidding me? Over 150 yards rushing and a touchdown last week. He's had at least 60 yards rushing in 3 straight and 4 of the last 5. In 2 of those, he's rushed for 120 yards or more. He is on pace to rush for more yards than any quarterback in a single season in NFL history. And 60 yards rushing, that's 6 fantasy points right there. That's better than throwing a touchdown. It's better than all of that. So you're starting with that as a base. And now you're going against the Seattle defense that plays more base defense than anybody. 3 linebackers. I don't think they can run with Lamar Jackson. I don't think they can contain him. And when you play that, it also sets you up to be passed on. I saw Baker Mayfield take the turnovers away. Incredibly efficient against this Seattle defense. I think Lamar will be. Mark Andrews is going to have a big day. His tight end working against these linebackers. And I think Lamar runs all over the yard. Lamar Jackson, the way to go. But again, we're talking about 2 guys that are absolute must-starts for your fantasy teams this week in Russell, the MVP, and Lamar, the fantasy MVP. Since this is a reality, we're going fantasy. Back to you in the Reward the Fan studios.
Segura calling Wilson the best player in the NFL right now, but going Lamar Jackson to have the bigger fantasy day today. It's a big call by Nate. Now to our answer for the QB that leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns. It's Deshaun Watson, who leads all QBs with 6 rushing TDs this year. And, speaking of rushing, looking at our scoreboard here, that's a fan fumble. So many of you guys dropped the ball on that one, not guessing Deshaun Watson. A lot for Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, they're actually tied with Tom Brady for second most. They have 3 rushing TDs this year. Lamar Jackson tied with a bunch of other guys at 2. We are halfway home with our sits and sleeper picks still to come, but time now to focus on daily fantasy for you guys. We know those of you who play daily fantasy want the haymakers, the players that will allow you to win big money. Now, Jalen Ramsey got big money from the Jags, but worked his way out of Jacksonville and landed with Wade Phillips and the Rams this week, where he's expected to start today. That story dominated the news cycle this week, and we want to give Jags fans some good news instead. So, on to question 4. Where does Leonard Fournette currently rank among fantasy running backs? In the top 20, top 10, or top 5? Before we get to the answer, let's head to Carson's kitchen and see why he believes Fournette is the ingredient daily owners need this week. Take it away, Chef.
All right, thanks, guys. As always, we're cooking up some spices in my kitchen this week for 3 DFS value plays of the week, followed by my low-owned haymaker play of the week. First up is Leonard Fournette. He gets a matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, who rank dead last in rush DVOA. They're giving up 5.4 yards per carry, and Leonard Fournette is literally seeing 95% of the snaps. He's a lock and load play. Next up is Cooper Kupp, aka the football nerd. That's right, he gets the number 1 wide receiver matchup play of the week, and he still comes in pretty cheap after his dud performance last week with Keanu Neal out with the Falcons. This defense is ranked dead last in every pass metric. Lock in Kupp in all of your lineups. Next, tight end, Evan Ingram. We're going to put some extra spices together for Evan Ingram. This athletic freak is back this week against the number 1 tight end matchup play of the week. This week is falling together very nicely. Don't overthink it. Evan Ingram is the play of the week. Last but not least, the low-owned haymaker play of the week. Everybody's probably going to be on Julio Jones, but I'm going to put some special spices for Calvin Ridley. He's in that same offense in the same game that I'm targeting with Atlanta in the Rams. And with Jalen Ramsey now part of the Los Angeles Rams, I fully suggest getting Calvin Ridley at a lot lower ownership into your lineup, who gets the premier matchup against Troy Hill. Thanks, guys. Good luck, and back to you.
Wow, Chef Carson, bolder than those red pepper flakes he had on his counter with his pick today for Calvin Ridley as the haymaker. He's also very high on Leonard Fournette, who faces the winless Bengals in Cincinnati less than an hour from now. Which brings us to our Q4 answer. Leonard Fournette is a top 20 back this season, averaging just over 13 points a week in most formats, more than 18 the last 3 weeks. Another scoreboard check, and wow, a massive fan fumble there. Only 86 of you knew that. A lot of you, most of you, almost all of you, giving Fournette a lot more credit confident he's actually earned this season. Maybe you'll have faith in him today. And we want to remind you, by the way, that Anthony, our chef, and the DFS Karma team, they have a live stream show where you can ask Anthony and the other analysts for lineup help. It airs every Sunday at 11 a.m. until noon, leading right into our show, Eastern Time. Today, they are giving everyone watching 20% off their premium NFL subscription. Just use code RTF at checkout. Back to the action now for question 5. We talk about who should be on your bench. For this one, we center things around a wide receiver who was surely overlooked and underestimated, Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is currently a top 5 fantasy receiver despite being drafted in the 3rd round of last year's NFL draft. So, let's take you back to the draft. Q5. How many wide receivers were taken ahead of McLaurin in last year's draft? 11, 5, or 8? Before the answer, we once again welcome our analytics expert to tell us why the numbers indicate the rookie receiving leader should be benched. Cynthia, take it away.
As for my 2 sits this week, I'm going to have to start with something that pains my heart. I love picking Terry McLaurin. He's been a lot of fun as this upside guy, but this week against the Niners defense, he's just not playable for me. This defense already has 12 takeaways, the 2nd highest pressure rate. And by the way, rookie Nick Bosa is leading all NFL players with a 20% pressure rate. Yikes. With that O-line, there's just not going to be enough time or volume or potential for Terry McLaurin to get you those safe floor kind of points that you need to be a full start and feel good about it. So for me, it hurts my heart. He falls outside of the playable range for this week. Another guy who's been kind of confusing, Melvin Gordon. It seems like the Chargers are trying to work him back into the fold, but between tons of injuries along their O-line and really inconsistent play, like confusing inconsistent play, this means Melvin Gordon is a no-go. And it also probably means Austin Eckler is also a no-go because they seem to be trying to create a shared backfield, and it doesn't seem to be working either way. Now, targeting the Titans defense with running backs, not a good value proposition either, because they're actually one of those types of fronts that are so multiple that you can't just use like a regular old average to evaluate them. You have to see against offenses that look like the Chargers, what did they do? And the answer was they didn't allow running backs to do very much. So I'm sitting Melvin Gordon. I'm probably sitting Austin Eckler if I have another option. And I'm absolutely heartbreakingly sitting Terry McLaurin. Back to you, Mike.
Cynthia, I hear it in your voice how heartbroken you are over sitting McLaurin. Guys, she's not buying that he can be consistent enough today to put up big numbers like in past weeks. McLaurin, though, used to being the underdog as he dropped to the 3rd round and 76th overall pick by the Redskins. So how many of you knew that there were 11 wideouts taken ahead of him in the draft? Let's see how many. Ooh, only 73 of you. We have had another fan fumble. It's our 3rd one of the day. Guys, there's some tough questions. If you've made it this far, you have definitely earned it. Let me tell you, man, we've had a lot of big knockouts today. But we're not down to the end. If you have been lucky enough to answer our first 5 questions right, all you got to do is get past our bonus round. Just answer our bonus question, aka the last question, correctly to be a winner and qualify for our grand prize ticket lottery to win 2 free football tickets. You ready to win some bonus reward bucks and tickets to a game? For our bonus question, we turn to sleepers. Now, the wide receiver position is often where owners find sleepers, and this week is once again that case. Our picks are in a moment, but first, a question that may shock many of you. Our bonus question is, which of these receivers is not in the top 10 in yards per game this year? Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, or Amari Cooper? We'll tell you who in just a second, but first, let our experts tell you who they're picking for sleepers in Week 7. Cynthia, kick us off. Who do you have?
Thanks, Mike. Sleepers are my favorite part of all of fantasy, and I'm really psyched about who I have for you this week. If you need a wide receiver or flex, you need to consider DK Metcalf's upside. It is so crazy to be recommending a receiver against a Baltimore defense. Usually Ravens mean no-go or interceptions or something bad. But this season, we've seen a totally different style of Ravens defensive play. Namely, a bunch of busted coverages that have turned into long touchdowns, lots of yards after the catch, lots of air yards per target allowed, meaning they're passing deep balls against them and people are catching them. And basically all of the best ways that fantasy wideouts earn you just crazy upside, the Ravens are allowing. So DK Metcalf's in an even better spot because number 44, that's the best cover corner for the Ravens, is Marlon Humphrey. He should be seeing a lot of Tyler Lockett, especially if Tyler Lockett tries to sneak into the slot. That will free up DK Metcalf to get you those deep receptions that you need, probably especially in the red zone too, where he's a big height mismatch. Great option for this week. Who do you got, Nate?
Thank you so much, Cynthia. DK Metcalf, gotta say, I saw him in person on the sidelines with the Browns this week, and that guy is impressive. Big, strong, and fast. I like that Metcalf pick. You were hot last week across the pond with Curtis Samuel. Let's keep it up there. For me, I'm going to go with the receiver as well, Michael Gallup of the Dallas Cowboys. No team gives up more fantasy points to receivers than the Eagles this year. They've already allowed 9 to produce at least a dozen PPR points against them this season. Last week, both Diggs and Thielen going off. This week with Amari Cooper back, albeit banged up, so you don't know if you get the full game out of him. Gallup, I think, is going to get a lot of work, and I think he's a great sleeper. I said Dak earlier, or maybe it's going to be later. I said Dak. I like Dak. Put them together. Everybody in that passing game. Dak, Gallup, Amari, Jason Witten. Let's go. Get them into your lineups. Gallup right into fantasy greatness, ladies and gentlemen. Mike, back to you.
Nate, that's why I love you, giving us a real Gallup for Michael Gallup. I love it. And Cynthia taking DK Metcalf for their sleepers. Now time for our final answer. Julio Jones is not in the top 10 in yards per game. No, Julio is just 14th with only 77 yards per game. That may be a big reason the Falcons have struggled this season. All right, 57 of you got that right. Guys, you're now in our lottery to win 2 tickets to see your favorite team. We had 1,000 of you begin this game, but now a 1 in 57 chance at 2 free football tickets? That's pretty incredible if you ask me. You've nailed it so far. Here are some of you in the running. Mama Hirsch, congratulations. AAAAB, you've made it this far. Penoge, Cirillo, AJ. Guys, not only are you already getting these $4.38 in reward dollars into your account, but now you have that chance at those tickets. Time to find out. Let's run that ticket lotto. Again, 1 in 57 chance. This is so close, you can taste it. Now, all of our winners can get the chance to win the ultimate prize of the week, free football tickets to the event of their choice. If you win, and I hope you do, you'll be prompted with a list of events near you to choose from. Just make sure to make your pick within 24 hours. I can't wait to see where you go. And when you get there, let us know where you go and what you choose, because we always love keeping up on when you guys go see free stuff on us. And we have our winner. It is Jay Saul. Congratulations on winning, Jay. Send us pictures, send us video. We want to see everything of your game experience on Twitter or our Instagram page. Tag us when you do at Reward the Fan. Guys, that does it for this Reward the Fantasy show. We hope you listen to our analysts and dominate today. Reminder, we bring you a fresh edition of Reward the Fantasy every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern, throughout the season. We come on right after inactives are announced and give you stardom or sit-em advice to set your lineups in your league and pick winners in daily. Our team of analysts and insiders work hard all week to bring you the very latest intel. Join us every Sunday at noon on Reward the Fan, the best 10 minutes of your week. See you next time from Reward the Fantasy.